Gentlemen, this is not that awkward conversation. This is a health wake-up call, backed by evidence, shaped by real clinic stories, and told with honesty. Because the truth is simple. A man's body doesn't stop needing attention, connection, or pleasure just because the candles on the birthday cake keep multiplying. So pull up a chair. Let me take you into a story I've seen hundreds of times. A few years ago, a 72-year-old man, let's call him Uncle Rahim, came into my clinic. Strong man, worked his whole life, raised a family, survived hardships, but he leaned in and whispered, "Doctor, I think something is wrong with my masculinity." When I asked what he meant, he hesitated. Then he confessed something millions of older men feel but never say out loud. "I stopped touching myself years ago. I thought it was shameful. Now my desire is gone, my sleep is broken, and I feel disconnected from my own body." He thought he was losing manhood. But what he was really losing was information. That day changed him because I told him 3 health secrets older men almost never hear. And today, I'm sharing them with you. The prostate is a small gland, but it behaves like a quiet archivist, collecting, storing, and contributing to the body's reproductive function with steady dedication. As men age, this little gland often becomes the source of discomfort, swelling, or slow, nagging pressure that creeps into daily life. Many older men assume this discomfort is just part of getting old, something to tolerate rather than understand. But gentle, regular sexual activity, including solo stimulation, can help support prostate health in ways most men were never taught. It isn't about indulgence, it's about movement, circulation, and the basic physics of how fluids behave in the body. Inside the prostate, a portion of seminal fluid is produced. Over long periods of inactivity, these fluids can stagnate. Stagnation, in biology, is rarely harmless. Circulation slows. Tissues become less elastic. Inflammation can sneak in like a slow fog drifting across a quiet field. But when a man engages in sexual arousal and eventual release, the prostate contracts rhythmically. These contractions help flush old or stagnant fluid, almost like rinsing out a small reservoir that's been sitting still for too long. This natural flushing supports a healthier environment for the gland, reducing the likelihood of buildup-related irritation. There's also the matter of blood flow. Many older men underestimate just how crucial circulation is to prostate comfort and overall pelvic well-being. Arousal increases blood flow to the region, feeding oxygen and nutrients to tissues that often become understimulated with age. Think of it as turning on a forgotten lamp in a dim room. Suddenly, everything becomes clearer, more nourished, more awake. When circulation improves, inflammation is more likely to ease, and tissues behave more like they did years earlier. Over time, this can contribute to reduced discomfort and a greater sense of ease during daily movements like sitting, walking, or bending. Hormones play another supporting role. Even gentle stimulation releases small amounts of feel-good chemicals that help the body relax. Tension, especially pelvic tension, often worsens prostate discomfort. Relaxing these muscles is like loosening a tight knot in a worn rope. The body softens, blood flows more freely, the gland can function with less strain. For older men who silently carry stress in their abdomen and pelvis, this calming effect can be surprisingly therapeutic. Now consider the emotional dimension, often overlooked but quietly powerful. Many men disconnect from their own bodies as they grow older, focusing on responsibilities, family, or fears of declining performance. This disconnect can make prostate discomfort feel larger, heavier, more ominous. But when a man maintains a gentle, healthy connection with his own sexual health, it builds awareness. He notices changes sooner. He takes action earlier. And most importantly, he stops viewing his body as an enemy. That emotional shift alone can reduce tension patterns that aggravate prostate symptoms. Here's a small, real-world example that captures this point clearly. A 68-year-old man, let's call him Kareem, visited a clinic complaining of a constant, dull heaviness between his lower abdomen and groin. He assumed it was age, maybe even something dangerous. After an exam ruled out serious issues, the urologist asked a simple question about his sexual activity. Kareem laughed awkwardly and admitted he hadn't been active for years, believing it was unnecessary at his age. The doctor gently explained how the prostate works and how inactivity can lead to stagnation and discomfort. Kareem left with reassurance and a simple suggestion: try reintroducing gentle, private sexual stimulation a couple of times each week. Within a month, the heaviness eased. Within 2 months, he reported feeling lighter, more normal, more myself again. Nothing magical occurred, just biology finally allowed to do its housekeeping. This key point isn't about taboo or indulgence. It is about understanding how the body maintains itself. The prostate functions best when it moves, flushes, and receives healthy circulation. For older men, this isn't a matter of youthfulness. It's a matter of comfort, longevity, and reclaiming ownership of a part of the body too often ignored until something goes wrong. As men grow older, the landscape of their inner chemistry shifts quietly, like a sunset changing shades without anyone noticing. Hormones that once surged with youthful intensity begin to ebb, not in a dramatic collapse but in a gradual softening that affects energy, mood, motivation, and even confidence. Many older men feel this shift long before they understand it. They wake up slower, carry heaviness in their thoughts, or feel that their spark has dimmed a little, not because life has become dull, but because the body's chemical orchestra isn't playing as loudly as before. What most never learn is that gentle, private sexual stimulation can nudge this orchestra back into tune in completely natural, biologically normal ways. During arousal and release, the brain releases a set of powerful neurochemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. These aren't merely happy hormones. They are regulators of motivation, emotional stability, mental clarity, and stress relief, 4 pillars that often weaken with age. Dopamine supports drive and focus. Oxytocin brings calm, bonding, and emotional warmth. Endorphins soothe pain and quiet the nervous system. Together, they behave like a soft internal sunrise, lifting the mind out of fog and tension. For older men, this chemical reset can have meaningful effects. Lower dopamine levels with age can make a man feel unmotivated or detached. When gentle stimulation triggers dopamine release, the brain receives a signal that something enjoyable, rewarding, and life-affirming has happened. This doesn't turn back time, but it can restore a sense of purpose and interest in the day ahead. Many older men describe this as feeling lighter, more awake, or more positive afterward. It's not magic. It's chemistry finally being reminded of a rhythm it still remembers. Oxytocin's role becomes even more important later in life. Known as the connection hormone, it eases emotional tension and reduces feelings of loneliness or irritability, 2 experiences many aging men face quietly. When oxytocin rises, the nervous system relaxes, breathing deepens, muscles unclench, thoughts settle. Even men who live alone often feel a gentle sense of inner companionship afterward, as if the body itself has said, "You're not as alone as you think." This emotional grounding supports mental health in subtle but powerful ways. Endorphins add another layer of benefit. They reduce physical discomfort and dull the edges of chronic aches, shoulders, knees, lower back areas that frequently trouble older men. When the body feels better, the mind follows. This upward shift in physical comfort can improve sleep quality and morning energy, giving the day a smoother, gentler start. This entire hormonal response works like resetting a circuit that has flickered due to age. It is not indulgent. It is not excessive. It is the body using a natural mechanism to regulate stress, preserve emotional balance, and maintain psychological well-being. A small example helps illustrate this clearly. A 66-year-old man, let's call him Arif, once told his doctor that he felt disconnected from himself after retirement. His days felt gray, motivation was scarce, and even routine tasks felt dull. The doctor gently asked about his intimate habits. Arif, slightly embarrassed, admitted he had stopped all forms of sexual activity years earlier, assuming it no longer mattered. The doctor explained how gentle self-stimulation can naturally trigger the hormones that sharpen mood and energy. Arif approached this suggestion cautiously, unsure whether something so simple would matter. Within 3 weeks of reintroducing it in a healthy, private, comfortable way, he noticed subtle but important changes. He woke up feeling more alert, smiled more easily, and even found himself taking morning walks again. He later said, "It felt like a small spark returned, one I didn't realize I had lost." This key point is ultimately about understanding the quiet intelligence of the human body. Hormones don't ask for grand gestures, they respond to small signals. Safe, moderate self-stimulation gives the aging brain a biological reminder that life is still rich, still warm, still worth leaning into. It is a natural, accessible tool for supporting mood, restoring emotional balance, and rekindling vitality from within. As men get older, the body's internal pathways begin to behave differently. Not broken, not failing, just slower, like an old river whose current doesn't rush the way it once did. One of the most important of these changes happens in the vascular system, especially in the pelvic region. Blood flow is the quiet conductor of male performance, tissue health, and overall vitality. When circulation slows, everything downstream slows with it. Responsiveness, firmness, recovery time, and even confidence. This shift is subtle at first, almost easy to ignore, until a man realizes he doesn't feel quite as strong or as reactive as he once did. What most older men never learn is that gentle sexual arousal, yes, even privately, acts like a warm-up for this entire vascular system, keeping tissues healthier and more responsive over time. Inside the body, erectile tissue depends on oxygen-rich BL UD to stay supple, elastic, and functional. Without regular blood flow, these tissues can stiffen, weaken, or lose their natural responsiveness. This is why urologists often use the phrase "use it or lose it," not as a warning, but as a physiological truth. Just like muscles shrink if they aren't exercised, erectile tissues depend on periodic activation to stay healthy. Arousal brings fresh blood into the region, stretching and nourishing the tissues in a way that nothing else quite matches. This process is not solely about sexual function. It's also about preserving vascular health. When blood vessels are used regularly, expanded, filled, and then relaxed, they maintain flexibility. As men age, vessels can become less elastic. Regular arousal encourages them to stay functional, almost like giving them a small workout that keeps them capable. This doesn't require intensity. Even light stimulation signals the body to send blood where it needs to go, warming the system like a slow sunrise entering a cold room. Pelvic floor engagement is another piece of the puzzle. During arousal and release, the pelvic muscles contract rhythmically. These contractions act like a natural workout, supporting urinary control, lower back stability, and core strength. Older men often don't realize that neglecting this area can lead to problems far beyond intimacy, such as weaker bladder control or pelvic heaviness. Engaging these muscles through sexual stimulation helps maintain tone, strength, and coordination in a region that profoundly influences daily comfort. Perhaps one of the most overlooked benefits is how regular sexual engagement connects a man back to his own sense of vitality. When the body engages in an act that boosts circulation, relaxes tension, and activates core muscles, the mind often follows. Confidence grows not because of ego, but because the body feels alive, functional, and responsive. These small reminders signal to the brain that age has not closed every door. Let's ground this with a simple example. A man named Yusuf, age 71, visited a clinic after noticing he no longer experienced the same firmness or ease he once had. He assumed the worst, that age had closed the chapter entirely. The urologist explained that his issue wasn't permanent decline but reduced circulation. Yusuf had become less active sexually over the years, both with a partner and privately, and the tissues simply weren't getting the stimulation they needed. The doctor recommended gentle, regular arousal a few times a week, not as a task, but as a way to reawaken blood flow and muscle engagement. At first, Yusuf doubted such a small change would matter, but within a few weeks, he felt noticeably stronger responses. He described it as the system warming up again, like an old engine that just needed to run a little. His confidence returned, not because he became younger, but because his body remembered a rhythm it had quietly forgotten. This key point is simple but powerful. The male body thrives on movement, circulation, and engagement. Arousal isn't merely a private moment. It's a biological message that keeps the system functioning, flexible, and alive. For older men, this isn't indulgence, it's maintenance. It's choosing to keep the river flowing rather than letting it turn still. When a man reaches his 50 seconds, 60 seconds, or 70 seconds, stress begins to settle differently in the body. It no longer bounces off the mind the way it might have decades earlier. Instead, it lingers, tightening muscles, disturbing sleep, stirring worries at odd hours. Older men often carry silent loads, health concerns, family responsibilities, financial pressures, memories that resurface, and a general sense that life is moving faster than they can keep up. Sleep, once a dependable refuge, B. E comes light and fractured. Nights stretch long and mornings feel sluggish. What many never learn is that gentle, private sexual stimulation can naturally soften these edges by influencing brain chemistry in ways that directly help stress and sleep. During arousal and release, the body releases a cluster of calming chemicals: oxytocin, endorphins, serotonin, and a noticeable drop in cortisol, the body's stress hormone. These aren't poetic metaphors, they're measurable biological responses. Oxytocin encourages feelings of comfort and emotional ease, almost like a warm internal exhale. Endorphins act as natural pain relievers, cutting through tension in the shoulders, lower back, and pelvis, places where stress loves to hide. Serotonin helps regulate mood and sleep cycles. And most importantly, cortisol levels fall. For older men who live with chronically elevated stress hormones, this cortisol drop alone can make the mind feel softer and the heart feel less restless. The result is a shift from a state of alertness to one of peaceful fatigue. Instead of lying awake replaying worries, the nervous system enters a gentle glide toward rest. This is why many men, even without realizing the chemistry behind it, feel calmer afterward. It isn't simply the physical act. It's the body using a natural mechanism to reset its internal stress signals. The sleep benefits are just as meaningful. After release, the brain increases melatonin production, the hormone that orchestrates deep sleep. This encourages the body to settle into longer, uninterrupted cycles rather than shallow or fragmented rest. For older men who struggle to fall asleep or keep waking up during the night, this can help re-establish a healthier rhythm. They often describe the difference as sleep that actually restores, not just sleep that kills hours. Another overlooked aspect is emotional relaxation. Many older men carry quiet worries they never speak aloud, believing they must stay strong or composed. When the body releases stress through a natural, private moment, the mind often follows with a subtle sense of relief. Tension eases not because problems disappear, but because the nervous system finally unclenches. This emotional softness can make bedtime feel less like an anxious battleground and more like a return to safety. To bring this to life, consider the experience of a 64-year-old man. We'll call him Bashir. After retiring, he found himself restless at night, lying awake replaying the day's small frustrations. His doctor asked him about his stress levels and sleep hygiene, and eventually brought up sexual health. Bashir laughed awkwardly. He hadn't engaged in any sexual activity, alone or otherwise, in nearly 4 years. He thought it was unnecessary, even inappropriate at his age. The doctor explained the stress-relieving and sleep-enhancing effects of gentle private stimulation. Bashir approached the suggestion hesitantly, unsure if it would make any real difference. Within 2 weeks of reintroducing it in a comfortable low-pressure way, he noticed something remarkable. He fell asleep faster. His mind felt quieter at bedtime. He woke up fewer times during the night. He later told the doctor, "It felt like switching off a noisy fan I had gotten used to hearing." Nothing dramatic happened, just a simple, natural release helping his nervous system relax. The heart of this key point is simple. The body has built-in ways to release tension and prepare for restful sleep. They don't require medication, complicated rituals, or external help. They require understanding. Gentle, healthy stimulation can be a quiet partner in easing stress and restoring deeper sleep. An internal reset older men often need more than they realize. As men grow older, their relationship with our own bodies often becomes quieter, more distant, almost like an old friendship that slowly drifts into polite formality. Responsibilities stack up, health concerns arise, and cultural silence around male sexuality grows heavier with age. Many older men begin to treat their bodies as machines to be maintained, rather than living companions to be understood. But maintaining gentle, private sexual engagement can help restore a sense of connection that goes far beyond physical pleasure. It strengthens self-awareness, confidence, and emotional balance in ways most men were never taught to appreciate. Body awareness is not simply knowing what the body can do, it is understanding how it feels, how it responds, and how it shifts over time. Sexual stimulation, even privately, naturally strengthens this awareness. Arousal brings subtle sensations to the surface: warmth, pulse, breath changes, tension release. These signals teach a man how his body communicates. They show what still works beautifully, what feels different, and what needs attention. Without this engagement, many men lose touch with those signals until something goes noticeably wrong. Staying connected helps them detect changes earlier, respond sooner, and feel more in control of their health. Confidence is the other half of this picture. When a man experiences his body as responsive rather than dormant, it sends a quiet but powerful message to his mind: I am still capable. This sense of capability doesn't depend on performance or perfection. Rather, it comes from knowing that the body still participates, still reacts, still carries life within it. For older men who fear decline or who have internalized shame around aging, this reminder can be deeply grounding. It counteracts the narrative that age steals masculinity. Instead, it tells a more accurate story, that confidence grows when a man engages with himself rather than withdrawing. This private engagement also supports emotional stability. When a man feels at home in his body, he is less likely to carry hidden tension, insecurity, or embarrassment. Stress and self-doubt often shrink when physical self-connection increases. The nervous system relaxes, breath deepens, the mind softens its grip on old fears. This emotional quieting builds resilience, not just in intimate areas, but in daily life. It becomes easier to move through conversations, challenges, and relationships with a steady heart. Many older men underestimate how psychological this entire process is. They assume confidence is something to think their way into, but confidence is felt, not forced. It rises naturally when the mind trusts the body, and the body feels acknowledged by the mind. Gentle solo intimacy acts as a bridge between these two parts, restoring communication that age or stress may have muted. A simple example brings this into focus. A 70-year-old man, let's call him Nasir, told his doctor he felt disconnected from himself. He wasn't experiencing major physical problems, but he felt uneasy in his own skin, unsure of his body's abilities, and surprisingly insecure around his wife. He assumed aging had dulled his masculinity. The doctor explained that he had stopped engaging with his own sensuality for years, creating a gap between what his body could do and what his mind believed. Nasir was encouraged to gently reintroduce private intimacy, not for performance, but for awareness and connection. Within a month, he noticed subtle changes. He felt more relaxed in his body. His confidence returned in small but important ways, speaking more openly, walking with lighter steps, smiling more. He told the doctor, "I didn't realize how much I'd forgotten my own body." This key point is about reclaiming that forgotten connection. Confidence doesn't come from pretending youth never left. It comes from recognizing the body as it is, alive, responsive, worthy of care, and meeting it with understanding instead of avoidance. When older men remain connected to their sensual health, they preserve not just physical function, but a deeper sense of identity, comfort, and emotional steadiness. Men, listen closely. You don't age out of desire, you don't age out of connection, and you certainly don't age out of caring for your own body. This topic is not shameful. It is health literacy, body maintenance, and emotional well-being wrapped into one. If you are over 50, 60, or even 70, and you've abandoned this part of yourself out of guilt or confusion, it may be time to reconnect with your own biology, with compassion, with understanding, and without shame. Because the biggest regret older men share isn't what they did, it's what they never allowed themselves to learn.